These are the tools you're going to need: 2-ton jack, easing fluid, copper ease, wheel wrench, breaker bar, extension tube, ratchet, sets of sockets there, which I like to keep on the rail because it's easy to carry them about. You only actually need the 19mm to take the wheel off and the 15mm to take the bolts out. There's a torque wrench there and the 2-pound application stick. Today I'm changing the bottom link of the suspension on my Jag X-Type. There's the components there. This one is the old one that I've taken off the other side, and the reason I'm changing it is because this bearing is loose. It moves around much too easily. You shouldn't be able to move like that. On the new one, see there's no give in that whatsoever, and the bearing is the same on the other side. I've looked at these very carefully and they're not handed, so you can put either on either side. First thing to do is to get the car jacked up. So coming in from the rear, I've got a wooden plate on top of the jack, and I'm just going to take the back wheel off. I've already gone round and loosened all these. It's pretty easy to get off. Just roll that onto the car so the car can't come down on me. And the part I'm taking off is hidden underneath. So we go down underneath the car. This bolt here is one end of it, and then it goes off underneath the car, and hopefully you can just see the other end of it. Now these bolts are, go into captive nuts. That's the bolt that needs to be undone, and the captive nut is on the other side. And from my experience of doing the other side, they'll be seized and they are buggers to get off. So I'm going to put some anti-seize compound on and go over with the wire brush. Right, I'm looking down. The blue part is the shock absorber, and behind it is the linkage that I'm trying to take off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to squirt some compound in there. You can just see the head of the nut there, and the part that I'm going to be doing up. Now it has to be undone with a breaker bar because it's ever so hard and it will be all rusty. So I've got a breaker bar and a long sleeve, which is actually off one of my old motorbikes. So I'm going to try and get that on there now. Okay, I'm doing the bolt nearest me, and it takes a 15mm socket. So I've just checked the size of that, and now I'm going to have a go with the breaker bar just to see if I can loosen it off. Right, that really doesn't want to move, but there it goes. Oh, well, believe it or not, this bit is the easy bit. The other one at the back is a bugger to get at. So that's starting to move. Now I've loosened it off, I'm using a ratchet with an extended socket so I can move it. But it's hellishly stiff. You can hear that. That's so tough, I've had to get the breaker bar back on it. Right, we're getting there. Well, I have to say, this is much harder than the other side. The other side I could get off with a ratchet. This doesn't want to know. I'm guessing you've got to think that this car is a 51 plate, so it's getting on for 15 years old now. It wasn't looked after before it came to me. And pretty much everything you want to do on it is seized. It's a shame nowadays, with metal being so cheap in relation to everything else, they didn't use stainless fittings, I guess. You know, these cars aren't really meant to last this long, are they? Hey, I'm moving now. And you can see that's a long old thread, and you can see half of it's rusty, dry as hell. I don't know if that's going to be any good. Right, and that. So I put the breaker bar onto the other end. And on this side, I've got to push it down to undo it. So I don't know how much space I'm going to have to do that. So we'll see. And that moved, but I just didn't go very far. And this is going to be the problem. You see that? So jack the car up higher now, so it doesn't come down on my iPod. Gives me the chance to get a bit more of a turn on it. This is going to be a pretty long process. So this side's turning out to be a real bastard. I'm down to the pushing it down with my foot stage, but it is coming. I've been at this for 10 minutes now. That's a bit of a bugger, it don't want to come out. Oh, right, there we go. And take that out, and take that out. Put it down on the ground the way it come out. The threads are all good, they're just crudded up. Right, I'm using a wire brush, by the way. A brass one. I don't think the metal ones are any good, and they tend to flick the stuff in your eyes as well. I've got this stuff. It's a kind of green version of WD-40. So I'm going to cover all the surfaces with it. Now just there is the bracket that it's got to go back into. And it goes back in it that way round. And the thing is, I noticed when I did the other side is that where it's been crunched up for so many years, you can't actually push it back in. So what we have to do is get a 2-pound application stick and strike it a couple of times to open it out, and then it will go in. I'm not sure if I can do that with one hand, but I'll try and demonstrate. Oh, look at that. Sweet as a nut. So I'll put the bolt through and do that back up now. So I'll push the bolt through and just got it in hand tight. Now I can just run it through on this ratchet. That's just started to pinch. I'll leave it like that and then push the other end up into position. Goes in there like that. Goes through. Bit of a persuasion with the old application stick there. Well, I was extremely lucky with that. When I did the other side, I had to jiggle all the parts about where they'd moved. And that just went straight in. So I'm going to crunch that up hand tight on this side. Go back to the back bolt, crunch that up. And then I'm going to get the breaker bar and just do it up as hard as I can. Very easy. that's it. That's the part replaced. Just need to put the back wheel back on. This is the part that's come off, and as you can see, that moves around too easily. Well, it's time for a test drive, and the problem I've been trying to solve is the banging sound that's come out of the back of the car when going over flat roads with little ripples in. So I've taken everything out of the back of the car except the spare, which is well tied down, and I'm hoping that that's going to cure it. So I'm going to put this camera in the back of the car and we'll see what happens. Well, that is significantly better than it was, and now the small amount of noise that it makes, I'm quite suspicious of this. There doesn't seem to be anything really stopping that from doing that, so I'm going to put some more fixings in it, and hopefully that will be the end of that noise.